It is a situation that will resonate with just about anyone who has ever raised a teenager. Somewhere in the transition from childhood to adolescence, a change occurs, hormones kick in, perceptions shift. That happy, innocent little boy or girl suddenly transitions into a surly, difficult creature who no longer thinks that the sun rises and sets with his or her parents. Clothes and hairstyles and attitudes change. This video details such a case where the person thought that she knows better than her parents and did something which completely shakes the bond between parents and child. But before continuing, we welcome you to our channel The Murder Files, where we discuss the most breathtaking, terrifying and strange true crime stories, and also we would like to send our sympathies to loved ones and families who fell victim to the obnoxious crimes presented on this channel. For Vicki Robinson, a 49-year-old single mom living in Florida, in the year 1998, the scenario described above had become a source of much frustration. Vicki was the mother of two teenage girls, and it was the younger of the two, Valessa, who was the problem. The 15-year-old was your typical wild child, willful, defiant, impossible to handle. She more or less ignored anything her mother told her, came and went as she pleased, hung out with guys much older than she was. Vicki suspected that she might be doing drugs. That perhaps Vicki had to bear some of the blame for the situation herself. A successful realtor, she dedicated a great deal of time to her career, often leaving her kids to their own devices. In fact, when Vicki, her boyfriend Jim Englert, and older daughter Michelle departed on a vacation in the summer of 1997, Valessa refused to accompany them. The then 14-year-old was left home alone. It was during this time that she met Adam Davis. Davis was, in many ways, the manifestation of Vicki Robinson's worst nightmare. The 18-year-old was a high school dropout, a petty criminal, a small-time drug dealer. He was also about to begin a short jail term for larceny. Valessa was initially ambivalent in her feelings for Adam, but her affections seemed to solidify once Vicki told her that she couldn't see him. Soon after, she started talking openly about having his baby. Over the months that followed, the war between mother and child continued to intensify. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the teen, arrangements were at an advanced stage to send her away to school. They would not be concluded because, on the night of June 27, 1998, Valessa came up with a solution to her problem. She suggested to Adam that they should murder her mother. The pair were sitting in a Denny's restaurant at the time, along with a friend, 19-year-old John Wispel. They were all tripping on acid and, at first, Davis and Wispel thought that Valessa was joking. Davis then proposed that they inject Vicki with heroin, making her death look like an accidental overdose. Wispel probably didn't believe that his friends would go through with it. Adam said that he knew a dealer where they could buy heroin. They then drove to the home of the dealer and Davis asked him specifically for enough heroin to kill someone. Unfortunately for them, the dealer said that he didn't have any. He did, however, provide Davis with a syringe. By the time they arrived back at the Robinson house, Davis had a new idea on how to use it. He was now suggesting that they inject Vicki with Clorox. Entering the house under cover of darkness, the would-be killers headed for the kitchen where Valessa poured some bleach into a glass. Davis then filled his syringe and the three started upstairs, Davis in the lead holding the hypodermic in one hand and his folding knife in the other. They had not yet reached Vicki's bedroom when they heard movement from within and saw a light visible under the door. Their intended victim was awake. Ducking into Valessa's room, they quickly hid the knife and syringe in a dresser. They were lounging innocently when Vicki entered. Vicki was understandably angry to find two boys in her teenage daughter's bedroom in the middle of the night. Rather than ordering them to leave, though, she told Valessa to get her sleeping bag and come into her room. Vicki then left and headed down to the kitchen for a glass of water. She was probably not aware that Davis and Valessa had followed her. She just opened the fridge when Davis grabbed her from behind, applying a headlock. Vicki fought hard, and her struggles only intensified when Davis plunged the needle in. With searing pain coursing through her neck muscles, Vicky thrashed and writhed. When Wispel came downstairs, he saw Davis pinning Vicky to the floor in a chokehold. Valessa was straddling her mother, pounding away at her with her fists. Even now, though, the teenagers were losing control of their victim. The battle only swung in their favor when Davis resorted to his knife. Vicky was stabbed in the throat, in the back, and in the chest. Most of the injuries were inflicted by Davis, but there is a suggestion that he handed off the knife to Valessa at some point. The teenager would later admit that she'd stabbed her mother in the throat, although she subsequently retracted her confession. The killers now had a problem they hadn't planned for: a corpse to dispose of and a bloody crime scene to clean up. The latter was addressed with bleach and paper towels, the former by unceremoniously stuffing Vicky Robinson's body into a plastic garbage can. This was loaded into Vicky's van along with shovels and a hoe from the garage. The teens then drove to a wooded area where they buried Vicky there. Returning to the house, Valessa raided her mom's purse for cash, credit cards, and an ATM card. She knew her mother's PIN, and so the trio headed for Ybor City, where they would spend the next 3 days partying, using Vicky's cash and cards to pay for drugs, meals, motel rooms, tattoos, and piercings. In the meantime, a concerned Joe Englert had reported his girlfriend missing. Police officers called on the Robinson residence, where they found clear signs of foul play. Blood evidence is almost impossible to clean up, and the teenagers had done a shoddy job. It did not take long for investigators to realize that Valessa was missing, and that Vicky's credit cards were still being used. In the midst of their ghoulish binge, Valessa and Davis suddenly found their faces splashed across news bulletins on every TV channel. Again, the teenagers had not planned for this most obvious of outcomes. Panicked, they and John Wispel decided to hit the road to Arizona, where they could lay low. They didn't make it that far. The police were tracking the usage on Vicky's ATM card and eventually sprung a trap. The juvenile killers were apprehended after a high-speed chase. Once in jail, it did not take long for the teen lovers to turn on each other. This was contradicted by John Wispel's version of events. According to him, the murder was planned and Valessa was its chief architect. She was jumping up and down, laughing and smiling, saying, "Let's kill my mother," he testified. Offered a 25-year jail term in exchange for his testimony, Wispel jumped on it. In the end, it was Adam Davis who was dealt with most harshly by the courts. Convicted of first-degree murder, he was sentenced to death. He currently awaits execution. Since she was just 15, the jurors opted instead to convict on the lesser charge of third-degree murder. She was sentenced to 20 years and served just 13 before her release in 2013. In September of 2015, Valessa Robinson posted a picture on her Facebook page. It is an endearing image of a proud mom, tenderly holding her infant son. The convicted matricide was now a mother herself. We sincerely hope that you had liked our video. Please subscribe our channel and also click the like button for more of these videos.